Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to another FIFA 21 video where today I'm going to be sharing with you my 4-4-1-1 custom tactics. These are absolutely amazing. I just won my third draft in a row with this same formation and these same custom tactics. This is a great formation. This is one of definitely my favorite formations. Something I want to use a lot more. Like I said in the last video, I do want to be kind of trying out a lot more custom tactics. We are pretty much going to be posting a video about every single formation and all the custom tactics, the best ones for it. And today you can see we're actually in draft with this formation, and this just shows that these tactics that we do build, they work in every game mode. They work really well, and they work better in some game modes. You know, some game modes will suit certain tactics a lot better because you can play a lot different. In draft, it's a bit more carefree, so you can kind of be a little bit more attacking, a bit more aggressive with your custom tactics. And these are the tactics that I ended up using. We used balanced on the defensive style. Now, I play a lot of balanced because it's the way I play. I'm not somebody who dominates a lot of possession. If you're someone who dominates a lot of possession, playing on like pressure on possession loss can work. Think about like Manchester City. They dominate the ball, and when they lose the ball, they work their ass off to get that ball back as quick as possible. They press when they lose the ball, and then they get it back super quick, and then they dominate the ball again. If that's you, playing press on possession loss, and it will work really well in this formation because this formation is quite a tight formation. You know, there's not a lot of space between the lines for your opponent to kind of play between. A press will be really effective in this formation. So if that's your play style, a lot of possession, you want to win the ball back super quick, this would be great for you. For me, that's not what I do. I'm not somebody who really dominates a lot of possession. Most of the time when I finish the game, my possession will be anywhere between sort of 48 and sort of 54. So I'm not a big possession person. So playing on a press doesn't really suit my style. I'm quite an aggressive sort of defender as well. So it doesn't really work too well for me. So that's why I play on balance. In terms of the width, and this is for defensive and offensive, a good tip for anybody who is kind of trying to adjust tactics for themselves, maybe they use our videos as a template. If you're playing in a wide formation like we are today, 4-4-1-1, it's quite a wide formation. You want to play with wide widths because then you're playing to the strengths of the natural shape of the formation. You don't try and force a wide formation to be really narrow defensively and offensively because it just won't work. It's just going to be super tight and it just doesn't suit the natural shape of the formation. And if you're playing a narrow formation, then obviously you want to be playing with quite narrow widths. And this is how I find it works super well for me. And this just worked like a treat. You know, it just like I said, play to the strengths of the formation, using the pace on the width that we do have, and using obviously the speed in behind, but then also utilizing that width on the wings, which just made it really difficult for my opponents. And one thing I find about draft is your players just seem to be faster. They seem to be more intelligent. They seem to adhere to what you tell them. You know, for example, the long ball style, really effective just generally in FIFA, but I find it's more effective in this game mode. And this is where this game can be a little bit, you know, tricky at sometimes because, you know, playing, for example, FUT Champs, long ball just doesn't seem to really work too well. Your players don't really seem to make too many runs in behind, but in draft, man, players are just non-stop running in behind, running behind, running behind. In the last draft, I had headliner Zaha and the first inform Rashford as my striker and centre forward partnership. And the amount of runs that like Zaha and Rashford and Davies, I had Timmy Davies in midfield, and Sadio Mane's nominee card on the left wing, and I had 88 inform Heung-min Son on the right mid. And the amount of runs they just kept making consistently was just overwhelming for my opponents. And in the end, we won the draft. We won 10-2 in the first round, 6-2 in the second, then 4-1, 4-1 in the semi and the final. So we just scored so many goals because the players just seem to really work for the instructions. And then the rest of the players in the box, corners and free kicks, we have on the standard stuff. That doesn't really matter regardless what mode you are in. So moving on to the instructions, obviously we have today Telles, Militao, Ramos and James as our back four. But regardless of who we have, I played on stay back while attacking for all of those 3 draft wins in a row that we've played so far. And funny enough, all were in 4-4-1-1. We played on stay back while attacking, and it just worked. I think when you're playing like in draft, because maybe the caliber of opponent is a bit more mixed, you can sometimes get some really top end players. You can sometimes get some really poor players. You can kind of mix up your tactics a little bit. So if you wanted to, you could play on balance. If you was playing like me in draft, you could definitely play on something like balanced and it wouldn't be too much of a deal. I think the reason why I played on stay back, the guy that, even though I won 4-1 in the final, he was a very good player. He was tough to play against, so I needed to have my fullbacks on stay back while attacking. But just generally, I play with my fullbacks on stay back while attacking anyway. I just think a lot of people like to abuse the wings in this FIFA. So it's just something that's just going to give you the best chance to defend that. I think when you play on balance with your fullbacks, you should only play balanced on your fullbacks. I think if you don't have sort of players in front, if you don't have midfielders, wide wingers, wide cams, if you play in a proper narrow formation, then you can send your fullbacks going forwards. I think because we've got left and right mid in front, you don't need to send them forwards because you've already got some width in the attacking part of the pitch. Now, speaking of those wingers, we've got Rashford on cut inside and getting behind, as we can see. Sancho on the other side, cut inside and getting behind as well. The reason why I play with them on cut inside is because that we do want them to make runs in between the fullback and the centre-back. More than anything, not to score goals, but just to kind of make those runs. So if Rashford makes a dart in between the right back and the right centre-back, it's more than that then gives Vardy, Kane, Fernandes, Barnes, the midfielders, the strikers, the centre forward, gives them chance to then get into the box, fan out, and then Rashford can then, I can use him and look for a cutback, and I can just go up the line and just cross it. You know, it just gives me some opportunities. Whereas if we don't have them on cut inside and you just have them on balance width, they're kind of just going to get stuck out, and it's then going to force you to attack through the middle of the pitch. So playing with those guys on cutting inside and getting behind is a deadly combination to not score goals, but really create chances and assist more than to score. Their job is really going to be to look for cutbacks, look for passes across, look for cutbacks to the midfielders, to the strikers, for them to then score goals. The two midfielders, Fernandes and Harvey Barnes, we actually had on stay back while attacking and cover centre. Now, we actually had these guys on stay back while attacking. In the last draft, I had Team of the Year Alphonso Davies and Gold Genie Wijnaldum, and the draft before that I had, I think it was Inform Pogba and Wilfred Ndidi, his UEFA Europa League card. So it didn't really matter. We played with stay back while attacking. The reason why we mainly do that is because we just don't need these guys going forward, and because we don't have that CDM behind us, kind of giving us that protection for that back four. These guys, I don't want them playing as CDMs, because if I was playing them as CDMs, I'd have them both on drop between defenders. I just want them kind of staying back and not getting drawn into the edge of the box, not getting drawn into the box, because then if we do lose possession, that's when it can kind of become tricky, and that's when, you know, anybody who might be using this formation would then start panicking. They would switch into their defenders, they'd start yanking their defenders all over the place, and then it can just be easy for your opponent to pick you apart. So we don't want those mids going too far forwards, allowing your opponent very easy opportunities to counter you. And it just worked a treat. And these aren't the most defensive players, but as long as they've got like decent passing and decent dribbling, they'll be good in this centre mid position. We're then at the centre forward position. I've got Harry Kane, stay central and getting behind. And in the last draft, we had the headliner 87 Wilf Zaha, who was an absolute machine of a card, by the way. He's so good. He was actually, this player is the primary goal scorer in your team. The reason why, the top striker Vardy's got on stay central and getting behind. A lot of the time you'll play the ball into the top striker, who will be Vardy. So let's say Harvey Barnes plays that ball into Vardy. Vardy will then be the one who will kind of hold it up, and it will be the likes of Kane, Rashford, Sancho, Fernandes. They're the ones that will then run beyond to then be the ones that will score the goal, especially the centre forward. He's the one that, if you do a lot of give and goes, you know, Barnes plays it into Kane. Kane will then play it into Vardy. Obviously, you've done a give and go, so now you're looking for that spacing behind. You're looking for that pass back to Kane. So the centre forward, you probably, if you're playing this formation like in Rivals, if you're playing this in Draft, you want your centre forward to be your best finisher, because he will score most of the goals. He will be your biggest goal scorer. So your best striker wants to play the centre forward position, and then your other striker wants to play in the top striker position. Ideally, you want them both to be quick. If one was fast and one was kind of maybe a bit heavier, you'd want your sort of heaviest striker as the actual striker, and your kind of quick, agile player and your best finisher in the centre forward position, because he's the one who will score most of the goals. But they link up really well, those two. Really important that you do try and get those two together and have those guys on the same instructions, because then they'll work together and they'll not be too far apart from one another. Just make it easier for you to score and create chances. But that is it for the 4-4-1-1. Man, I love this formation. It's such a good formation. It's difficult to break down. It's great in a press. The link-up play is great. You can utilize width. Like it's the only thing this formation doesn't have is a CDM, and I think CDMs are important in the game. But everything else about this formation is so good. It's definitely one of my favorite formations. I know I say that all the time. I have loads of favorite formations. But this is definitely one of those ones that I just really like, and whenever I get this in draft, I take it, and I always seem to win the draft, and it's just a great formation all around. So let me know in the comment section if you do like this formation, and if you are going to be using these tactics. If you've got any questions, put them down there. Make sure you join the Discord down below. We are approaching 400 members, which is crazy good. Make sure you join that for more FIFA tips and help, and just a great place and a very friendly Discord where you can just talk about FIFA and just have a lot of fun. Make sure you subscribe as well if you are new to the channel. But that is all for today, guys. Have an awesome day. I'm out.